Hi, welcome to my little podcast for the love of authenticity, finding your signature self in the workforce. I'm excited to have Ana Welsh with us today. She's an executive leader and coach. She focuses on culture building and coaching young executives in the workplace. Welcome, Ana. I'm so excited to have you with us today.
Too. Thank you for offering to have me join.
Yes, good stuff. Well, we connected a few months ago, and I was so impressed with, you sharing about culture in the workplace. And you're just such an engaging speaker, and I wanted to have you on. But first, before I get to the space that we're really going to talk about today, share with us your story.
Well, I knew I loved you from the start, I must say as well. So the feeling was very mutual, that Chester County HR for Small Businesses panel. So I'm so glad that we were able to connect. And honestly, life's all about connections, as you know, and you never know where it can take you, which is where my story comes in. First and foremost, I'm an immigrant. I was born in Brazil. I moved to the States when I was 5. I grew up in South Florida and came from humble beginnings. I paid my way cash through college. It took me 7 years, but I did it. And then I met a really hot guy at a bar on vacation in New York City, the only guy wearing an Eagles jersey, and he is now my husband of 11 years. So I turned into a Northeast girl. I lived in Hoboken, New Jersey for 10 years, and now I live outside of Philadelphia. So when I moved to Hoboken, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I worked in PR for a short period, and then I got a job as a drug rep. I loved it. I was frolicking the streets of New York City, selling drugs, legal drugs, I will say.
Hey,
And
I have the same background. Drugs right out of my car.
It was legal. It was a great job, and met a lot of great dermatologists. And one of them, about a year after us working together, called me to his office one day and offered me a job. I had no idea what I was going to do. He just seemed really dedicated to grow, and told me that I seemed like a go-getter, and he just needed someone to help him execute. So I followed my intuition. I'm a big risk taker, and believed in myself, believed in him, and I ended up joining his organization for 10 years. It's called Schweiger Dermatology Group. That job changed my life. When I started, I was the 11th employee. When I left, there was 1,200. When I started, there was 2 offices. When I left, there was 93. Him and I are in so close communication, and I'm so grateful that he saw something in me. Because, like I said, I was able to learn so much, grow so much, and I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have that really hard experience where I failed a lot. And by a lot, like a lot, a lot. The first 4 years, I was in operations. I started the call center, day to day ops, integration teams. And then the last 6 years, I was in HR. 4 of those 6 years, I was head of HR. And in fact, they rebranded it as employee experience. And my goal in 2017, when I went from ops to HR, employee experience, was to reduce turnover and build a culture. We didn't really have like a full HR department. We were kind of piecemealing it and doing our best while doubling in size. And we didn't have an orientation, an onboarding program, a training program. And that led us to having a 60% turnover in 2016, 60, which is insane. That first year, we reduced turnover to 26%, that second year, 21%. And that was my claim to fame. Like, this is my
Wow.
gift. I get it. It's people at a large scale. It's professional development. It's coaching. It's teaching soft skills, because a lot of times these real hard workers, individual contributors, go-getters is what I call them. They get promoted into manager. They have to manage humans. And I know some people don't like that. They're like, it's people. They're humans. We're humans, and we're complex. We're all individuals. And that's the hardest job. I don't care if you're
Mhm.
an engineer, a physician, an attorney. Managing other humans, I genuinely believe, is the hardest job. And when you don't know how to, there's a good chance you're going to fail, like I did a lot in the beginning. So, I used that gift as I was approaching my 10-year mark to build my new chapter, which is now owning my own business, Ana Welsh Coaching and Consulting. I help franchisees and brick and mortar companies scale to 7, 8, 9 figures. I do that by way of advising and coaching the business owner, coaching the leaders, and doing leadership trainings for the teams and for emerging leaders. I've been in my business for a year and 8 months. I've supported 65 individual coachees over 13 different companies, 6 of them being the Nothing But Cakes franchise, 6 different franchise owners, teams across the country, and currently working on building my speaking business. In fact, in May of 2024, I'll be speaking at American Association of Franchisees and Dealers Conference.
Wow. Anna, I
That's
mean,
my story.
pause. Give yourself a hand. I
Thank
mean,
you.
wow.
Thank you.
I love this journey for you and the growth you've had in such a short time. Like, so wow. So take that. That's so incredible.
Thank
Good for
you.
you.
Appreciate
Well,
that.
well, I know like something that we had talked about previously, and I had seen something that you had pushed out on LinkedIn, and it was about authenticity, and that is one of my like life lessons, right? Like really leaning into authenticity as you put it, as a human. What does that look like? And then what does that look like in a professional setting, right? So I know that this is a something that you wanted to talk about. So share with me, like, where are you with this and what does that look like in a professional setting?
So this is a new message that I'm including now in my trainings and my coaching. And it came on the heels of an experience that I had discussing how to show up in the workplace. And it was based on a alternate thought of showing up with all of your emotions and being super authentic and being your true self at work. And I thought to myself, well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Because while in an ideal world, we should be able to show up as ourselves. And if we have an emotion, we should share it and we should have unfiltered opinions. Sure, in an ideal world, but in order to play the professional game, you have to do so in a professional way. So, in my eyes, showing up authentically in a professional way is different than doing so personally. Why? Because human nature, energy will always persist what should be in a professional setting. What do I mean by that? There's a lot of communication, mismessaging, mixed messaging, I should say. There's a lot of mixed messaging out there on different social media channels for different generations, if you catch what I'm throwing. That's all about pushing, show up as your whole self and be authentic, be who you are. Yes, but I'm going to challenge that to say, show up as your signature self. And here's kind of the difference behind it. Showing up as your whole self, in my opinion, gives a unintended negative message and green light to show up with your unfiltered opinions, to show up focused on your personal preferences and your subjective opinions about something, to show up having with all of your to show up with all of your emotions and giving yourself that okay that it's fine to do so. What ends up happening is when you're so raw and unfiltered with the energy that you're bringing to the meeting, the table, the one-on-one, then in your kind of work environment and aura, you're going to feel comfortable having self-doubt, having conversations around venting,
Mhm.
um, and the most important unintended consequence, in my opinion, is you're going to be an energy vampire. You're going to be draining. You don't mean to be, but that's what's going to happen because energy will always persist. People are going to feel nervous being real with you and giving you maybe helpful feedback. They're not going to want to upset you and you end up being defensive or crying. It may be alienating. It may lend itself to a negative, kind of tense energy and aura that you bring, whether it's via Zoom virtually or in person. So I challenge this whole self authenticity with signature self, effective authenticity. And what I mean by that is you're still adding value, but in a thoughtful way. Your approach will land well and being well received, You are focused more on the greater good versus the personal and subjective preferences. You have professional preferences and an objective kind of viewpoint.
Hmm.
You're passionate, which is different from emotional. Um, and then with all of that, it's going to lend itself where you're going to be execution focused, objective focused, and you're also going to have that approachable confidence. And the best ROI on showing up as your signature self is you're going to be energizing. People are going to want to work with you. They're going to feel comfortable going to you. They're going to elicit feedback from you. They're going to want to emulate you, and you're stimulating thoughts with them. So,
Hmm.
that's kind of the overall, viewpoint that I honestly just came up with in my head based off of a recent experience and really, from, a lot of my coaching conversations, but truthfully, if I'm being really honest here in the moment, through my own learning lessons. I used to be on my soapbox and be emotional and be, always arguing a point without being thoughtful, without filtering, without psychoanalyzing the audience and end user and kind of seeing how I can adapt so that I can get really what I essentially wanted out, but in a more professional execution, objective, approachable, energizing manner.
Right. No, I appreciate what you're saying because I feel like in some of my past roles, I am a really passionate person and that comes through in my work and, and I'm a go-getter. I don't have a lot of patience when it comes to getting something done, right? That makes me a classic salesperson. But when I look back, like what I'm hearing too from you is, it's not that you're saying don't be authentic to your core. Like you still believe in authenticity, but it is it's looking at the whole picture in a professional setting that it's being aware of the other humans in the room that come to the table with their own set of values, right? And it's being able to play the game where everyone is heard and seen for what their strengths, right? And that authenticity of their values. Yeah, I mean that flows. But in a workplace, we're going to get a job done. So it's that awareness. Am I hearing you right with that?
You are. I
Like,
appreciate that
okay.
summary. And if I can summarize the summary in, if you
Yes.
will, still be authentic, but be effective.
Yeah, that's your E word. That
Still be
energy vampire, which is, that's one of my favorite shows I'm watching. What we do in
still
the
be
shadows.
yes, still be authentic, but balance your desire to be authentic with your desire to execute. And just be more
Huge.
self and socially aware of the energy that you're contributing and of the psychological safety that you're contributing as well, right?
Okay.
If you're always kind of emotionally bringing down an idea or getting emotional with an idea, people are going to feel tense and they're going to want to walk on eggshells with you.
Right.
So again, be authentic, but just be effective about it so that at the end of the day, you can still execute because most businesses are not group therapy sessions.
Right.
Most businesses are there for revenue
Right.
and profits, if we're being honest. The revenue pays for all of the employees' paychecks. So how can we stay focused on executing, providing revenue, and emulating so that you can facilitate growth internally and externally with who you're interacting with?
Love it, Anna Welsh. And that's why we would go to you for executive coaching.
Executive coaching, leadership coaching, especially for early to
Mhm.
mid-career go-getters is really what I call them. I help improve work performance with confidence and new skills around communication, around the executive presence, around the execution. So absolutely happy to speak with anyone that is listening or watching today and see if and how I can support them achieve their business and professional development goals.
Awesome. And you also do, you probably already mentioned this, but like speaking engagements is something that you really enjoy.
I love it, love it. I know that's actually most people's fear and over death. But I'm one of those crazy people that just loves to speak in front of an audience because I just love to be able to help and make an impact on a greater, good, a greater opportunity. So I speak for conferences and companies as well. I have several speaking engagements this year that you can find on my website. And I mostly speak around culture, building a culture that scales, leadership, confidence, and self advocacy. I'm also doing talks for high school and college students on the unwritten rules of entering the workforce, things they don't teach you in school.
Ooh, that's really cool.
I learned the hard way so much, so my goal is to help others not have such hard falls along the way.
Well, thank you. I think that's a beautiful gift to give the younger generation that's, getting into the workforce. It's very different than when I was there, and I'm sure when you were there. My son is going to be launching into that this year. So, yeah, I will send him your way. It
Well,
has been a pleasure to have you. You are just amazing. I love, your, I can like just feel your energy, which is, um, it really is like it's a passion, but it's also a nurturing, like, hey, let me lift you into getting stuff done. And I like your E word. It's all about being effective.
right.
So
Well,
good
thank you for the
stuff.
kind words. It was wonderful to chat with you and share this message with your audience. It's all about women supporting women and just people supporting people. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you. Beautiful.
Awesome, Anna. Thanks for joining me today. You're the best.
Thank you.
Yay.